What's up, guys? It's Ben10clem here, back with the Ben10clem Poll Week 7. So, should be pretty interesting. There's a lot of change-ups. There's been a lot of upsets this week. Crazy upsets. I mean, some that you would never expect, aka the Alabama one. But we're going to go and get right into it. I'll show you guys the Ben10clem Poll. And I updated the graphic a little bit to make it more information will show. So, what you got here is we got a new number 1, and I chose Ohio State to be number 1. Currently, the AP poll, if I bring that up for y'all, we're going to first show you guys that before we show anything else. So, let me do that. We're going to go close this out, bring out window capture, and then enlarge it. So here we go. Let's just decrease the size here. I know this is a little scuffed, but here we go. We'll show the first like this. Here we go. So yeah, Texas is 1, Ohio State is 2, Oregon is 3, Penn State is 4, Georgia is 5, Miami is 6, Alabama is 7, Tennessee is 8, 9 is Ole Miss, 10 is Clemson, 11 is Illinois State, or Indiana State, I think. Then Notre Dame, LSU, BYU, Texas A&M, Utah, Boise State, Indiana, Oklahoma, Kansas State, Missouri, Pitt, Illinois, Michigan, and SMU. USC, Nebraska, Navy, Army have some upvotes to get in, but yeah, that's what I have. They had USC, Louisville, and UNLV dropping out. Anyways, let's get started on my side now. So, the Ben10clem Poll. So last week, my poll was Alabama, Texas. Well, you'll see here, pretty much. But our new number 1 is going to be Ohio State, right here. Ohio State is my new number 1. And our number 2 is staying the same. It's going to stay the same for a while, probably. I have Texas at number 2. And then I have Oregon jumping up 3 spots to number 3. And Georgia staying at the same at 4. And then number 5, I have Penn State jumping up 2 spots to go to 5. So the reason why the rankings in the top 5 changed a good bit is because Alabama number 1 last week was number 1. They lost to Vanderbilt, and it was 40-35. Massive upset against one of the worser teams in the SEC. So for number 1 to lose to an unranked school, also one of the weakest SEC schools, is sad. So they dropped 7 spots. If you see the new thing being shown here, circled it. It's a new little tab I have, the biggest losers tab. So Alabama dropped 7 spots on my poll, and they're ranked 7 now. So they went from 1 to 7. And my second biggest loser spot is Missouri. I have them now down to 24 when I had them at 17. Then we go from the next highest drop spot, which is Tennessee, because they lost to Arkansas 19-14. Like, that's, if you're a number 5 team, you should not be losing. So they're down at 11 now. And then the other team that dropped some spots, I forgot to add a couple, but Michigan also dropped. I'll have to show more, but Michigan last week was 8 for me. They're now 18. And then USC was 13 last week for me. They are now 19. So I still have them in the rankings, even though they're 4-2. I still think they would beat like Indiana, BYU, Boise, those teams, respectively. But yeah. Anyways, let's get back to it. Penn State played UCLA this weekend, and it was 27-11. So we also had to move them up. Oregon played Michigan State, 31-10, won significantly. I don't think Penn State. Part of me wanted to move Georgia up one, but I was like, you know what? Oregon's been consistent. They really haven't shown like inconsistency. So I moved them up 3 spots to number 3 spot, which the AP poll has them there. And then, because I had Oregon at 6. But, yeah. Then Ole Miss, I moved up as well. Ole Miss played South Carolina at South Carolina. Had a very good win, 27-3. It's really hard to play at South Carolina, so they got moved up 5 spots. And we already talked about Alabama losing to Vandy, 40-35. LSU moved up 4 spots. LSU did not end up playing a game, but I moved them up a lot because of Alabama and Tennessee losing and stuff like that. So changed the game up a lot. And next, I could show you guys the images from comparing to last week to this week. So there you go. Last week to this week, there you go. That's what it was. I have now Clemson in the top 10. I have them at 9. In the AP poll, they have them at 10. Clemson rose five spots on mine, and they rose 5 spots in the AP poll. I dropped Miami down 1. They should have lost last week, or this weekend, to, they should have very well lost to California. It was 39-38. The targeting call was bullshit. That's the most I can say. Is how they didn't call it is beyond me. It should have been called. That's the second time Miami's got bailed out of a game. They didn't call it a catch against Virginia Tech. Would have been a touchdown. Last second touchdown to win the game. Didn't call it a catch when it was clearly a catch. Second, this in the Cal game. There was targeting. They clearly did targeting, and they were assholes about it, laughing about it, blah, blah, blah. And it wasn't ruled targeting. So they got bailed out twice now. So I dropped them down to 10. AP poll has them at 6. Last week, if you guys look here, I had them at 9. So I dropped them 1 spot. It's being generous. Being very generous. I could have dropped them way more. Because in my eyes, they are a 2-loss team. So realistically, they should be 4-2. And then now we have Tennessee, now at number 11. In the AP poll, they are 8. Last week, I had them at 5, so they dropped 6 spots. Notre Dame, number 12. I did have them at 10. Very high up. I know a lot of people aren't high on Notre Dame. Notre Dame right now is 12 in the AP poll. I have them at 12 as well. And keep in mind, guys, I do this poll before the AP poll comes out. That is my whole thing. That is how I do it. It's kind of like a guessing the AP poll in a way, but also what I think the ranking should be. Then you got Iowa State. Iowa State played Baylor, 43-21. They just took it away in the second half. It wasn't even close. So they move up 3 spots, and they're number 11 in the AP poll when I have them at 13 now, when they were 16. And then we got Utah moving up only 1 spot. They're 16 in the AP poll. I think that's a little disrespectful. I think they should be higher. BYU, people are so high on BYU. I get it. They are 5-0. But I saying it now, the roster is not as good as Utah's, Kansas State's, or Iowa State's. I think all 3 of those offenses and rosters are better than BYU's. BYU did have a lucky win against Kansas State, but I still don't think, to this day, they are better than any of those teams. Kansas State had an off game. Teams have off games. BYU will play Arizona up next. I think that's going to be a close game, and if Arizona beats them, proves my point. I had Arizona in the top 25, but they ended up losing. They dropped out for me. Rutgers lost to Nebraska, so they dropped out, and James Madison lost to, I think, UL Monroe, which is a depressing loss. Like, how do you beat North Carolina 70 to, I think, 40-something, and then go and lose to UL Monroe? It doesn't make sense. So they're out of the rankings for me. Kansas State, I moved up 3 spots. So they were number 18. I moved them up to 15. Texas A&M is one of our biggest risers. I think they are the biggest risers in the top 25. I'm still not super high on Texas A&M, but after their win against Missouri and absolutely blowing them out, 41-10, keep in mind Missouri was 9 at the time, and Texas A&M was 24. Now Missouri is 21 in the AP poll, and then Texas A&M is 15 in the AP poll. Last week, if you guys want to look, Texas A&M was 24 for me. Missouri was 17. I kept dropping them and dropping them and dropping them because they just don't have any close games, and that just proved it for me. They just get blown out by a shit-ranked school, keep in mind. So the Texas A&M jumped 7 spots. Yeah, and then Missouri dropped 7. Oklahoma, I'm pretty sure they didn't play, but I moved them up 2 spots because Michigan and USC. I think I clumped those 2 right up together because they're pretty evenly matched. Michigan did beat USC, I think, but I mean, it's a pretty evenly matched between it. I think if they went back-to-back or played at each other's places, it'd be a different story. But that's the score. I mean, that's what I have them, 18-19. They are both 4-2 loss teams. So keeping them both in there is a little questionable, but I do think they're better than the other teams that they put on the top 25, such as Illinois, Pitt, SMU, those teams. Even Boise State. Even though Boise State had a great game, there wasn't a lot of defense played. And the Big Ten is known for defense. So they would I think they'd get shit on, to be honest. Clemson had a great game against Florida State. It was 29-13. Say that again because I forgot to mention that. They did move up 5 spots for me. Then we go on to Indiana. They move up 3 spots for me. They are 6-0. They destroyed Northwestern 41-24. So, I mean, maybe I'm a little harsh only moving them up 3 because they're 18 in the AP poll. I have them 20 when last week I had them at 23. BYU, I kept the exact same. Didn't move them up at all. They didn't play at all. AP poll, they're ranked 14. I have them at 21. I had them 21 last week. I'm going to keep them at 21 this week. They didn't play. I still don't think they're better than the teams above them. I mean, they could maybe beat a couple, but I'm not high on them like other people are. I just don't see it. I don't. There's people like if you look in um, championship odds, like they're nowhere close to being mentioned. Now, Boise State, I should have added last week. I'll be honest. Last week's rankings, I should have added them, to be honest, over James Madison. So that is my bad. I am sorry, people. And I also should have added Nebraska, probably respectively, over over Arizona. I was high on Arizona. I was wrong. That's my bad. I apologize. I take full responsibility of that, and I was wrong. Same with James Madison. I was wrong. But so far, this is what we got. And then, so the three new teams that are in the top 25, number 22, Boise State, had an amazing win against Utah State, 62-30. Absolute blowout. And now I got Nebraska in here. Nebraska played Rutgers and won. Let me double check. Scores real quick. Week 6. Let me find the score. Forgot what the score was. Because they played each other. Was it this week or was it last week? Or did they not even play? Let's see. Let's look at... Because they were in the Big Ten. Yeah, Nebraska and Rutgers played. It was 14-7. Nebraska ended up beating Rutgers. I put Nebraska at 23. Nebraska's not a bad team at all. They are currently 5-1. So I have them in the game, ranked respectively. Then if I go look at Army is the next team I added. They are 4-0 currently. I was debating adding Army or Navy. Both of them really good. But Army is 4-0 right now, while Navy is 3-0. That's in conference play. But they're both 5-0 in general. Army has played an FCS school, FAU, Rice, Temple, Tulsa. Tulsa I thought would give them more trouble, but did not. 49-7. That's probably their most impressive win. And then Navy, they played an FCS, Temple, Memphis, UAB, and Air Force. They beat Memphis 56-44, beat UAB 41-18, and beat Air Force 34-7. They keep in mind both these teams have to play Notre Dame in the regular season. So, I mean, I gave it to Army because they had more impressive wins, I think. Not necessarily more impressive, but more like high-scoring wins. So, Army is now 25 for me. So, a lot of change-ups due to the tons of losses we had in the top 10, let alone just, yeah, it's crazy to see all these losses. So, just glad to see Clemson finally in the top 10, and I put them above Miami, which is a bold, might be a little bias in there, but Miami should have lost 2 games in a row. But the damn refs bailed them out 2 times in a row. So I have no damn sympathy for Miami. And I'm even being generous keeping them in the top 10 when they realistically should be 4-2. So there you have it, guys. You got some of the biggest droppers here, pretty much. So if I go ahead and count what I had Michigan at, I had Michigan at 8. Michigan dropped 10. USC dropped 6. So really the biggest dropper was Michigan. And even having both of those teams not below 20, that's a little risky. It's a little risky of a play by me, but that's what I have, and that's what I'll keep. Anyways, I do hope y'all enjoyed this Ben10clem Poll Week 7. I know it's a little shorter than normal, but I just had to rant a little bit about Miami being overrated. There are some big games coming up, though, for a couple of these teams, such as Ohio State is going to be playing number 3 Oregon. Penn State has to play USC at USC. Both of those games are away games. For Ohio State is an away game, and Penn State has an away game. Texas plays Oklahoma in the Red River rivalry, so that's going to be huge. Oklahoma is number 17 in my rankings. They're number 18 in the Big 12 ranking, or the AP poll rankings. Who else plays big games? Alabama versus South Carolina. Not really going to be a big game. Tennessee versus Florida. Could be a big game. I mean, who knows? Because both those teams did lose. Ole Miss has a really big game. Ole Miss versus LSU. Looking forward to that game. Clemson plays Wake Forest. That's going to be an easy game. Iowa State's playing West Virginia. Should be a pretty easy game. Notre Dame playing Stanford. Easy game. BYU and Arizona is another game I'm going to keep an eye on, because I think that could be a toss-up. To be honest with you, could be a toss-up. Utah plays Arizona State, which not really going to be a big game. Boise plays Hawaii, not going to be close. Kansas State plays Colorado. That's going to be an interesting game, I think. Because you got Heisman potential winner Travis Hunter on Colorado. I do think Kansas State can pull out a win there, and an impressive win at that. Missouri plays Massachusetts. Gonna be an easy game. Illinois at Cal, or no, Pitt at Cal. No, Cal at Pitt will be a good game, I think. Because California is not bad. They should have beat Miami, and they rightfully should have won that game. But the refs screwed them over. Cal is going to have a close game. Indiana doesn't have a game. So pretty much everyone else I talked about doesn't really have a game. So, yeah, that's going to be it for me in the Ben10clem Poll this week. Lots of changes. Curious to see next week. Got a lot of good games next week as well. So I'll see you guys next week for the Ben10clem Poll Week 8. This has been the Ben10clem Poll Week 7. And I'll see you guys next week. Bye. Peace.